The Everlast Concordat had ruled the galactic spiral for 9,000 years, their dominion unchallenged across 37 species and 16,000 worlds, until the day they weren't looking. Commander Verity Lachlan stared through the viewport of the HSS Dauntless at the glittering Helion defensive array, 29 orbital platforms, each bristling with weaponry that, according to every piece of intelligence the United Earth forces possessed, should have been at least 3 centuries beyond human engineering capacity. Status report on the Quantum. Full technology? She asked, her voice betraying none of the anxiety churning in her stomach. Lieutenant Orion Frost's fingers danced across the holographic interface. Stable, Commander. The Concordat still doesn't know we've reversed-engineered their own FTL system and improved it tenfold. Good, she replied, and they won't know until we want them to. Elsewhere in the Sol system, similar scenes played out. Across the fleet. For 2 centuries, humanity had been deemed a primitive curiosity by the Concordat, permitted to develop within the confines of their own system, but prohibited from true interstellar travel. A cosmic zoo exhibit, watched from afar by condescending eyes. What the Concordat observers failed to notice was humanity's greatest strength: adaptation through adversity. Restricted to a single system, humans didn't stagnate, they intensified. Every resource in the Sol system was cataloged, harvested, and utilized with ruthless efficiency. Every scrap of alien technology that leaked through, studied, dissected, and improved upon. Admiral Callisto Reeves stood on the bridge of the UEF flagship Prometheus, surveying the final preparations for Operation Horizon Dawn. At 72, her face was a roadmap of the hardships humanity had endured to reach this point. "The Concordat believes us contained," she addressed the assembled fleet commanders through the quantum comm. "They believe us primitive, subservient, and grateful for the scraps they've thrown our way. Today, we proved them catastrophically wrong." On Mars Colony Prime, President Ilara Voss addressed the United Earth Parliament for what would become known as the Declaration of Stellar Sovereignty. Her words echoed across every habitation, dome, subterranean city, and orbital platform throughout the system. "For too long we have been denied our birthright among the stars. The Concordat believes they have given us a cage gilded with false benevolence. Today we don't just break that cage, we reveal that we outgrew it long ago." In the classified facilities beneath Europa's ice, Dr. Zephyr Novak activated the final sequence of the Quantum Entanglement Network, an instantaneous communication system that would unite humanity's imminent expansion. "Network Live," he whispered, knowing that this technology alone would give humanity an edge that the Concordat couldn't comprehend, much less counter. Across the system, 500 advanced colony ships, constructed in secret within the hollowed-out asteroids of the belt, prepared to launch simultaneously. Each carried the seeds of human civilization and defensive capabilities that would have been deemed impossible by Concordat assessments. The Helion Array, humanity's masterpiece of defensive engineering, powered up fully for the first time, creating an energy signature so powerful that even observatories in neighboring systems would detect it. Commander Lachlan allowed herself a smile as the countdown began. The Concordat had always assumed that containing humanity to Sul was a kindness, a way to protect the primitive species until they were ready to join galactic society. They never considered that isolation might forge something far more dangerous than they could imagine. "All ships, final preparations for Quantum Fold," Admiral Reeves commanded. "We launch in 3 minutes, for Earth and all her children." The message that would soon reach the Concordat was simple yet profound. Humanity was already a stellar empire, and they were coming out of the shadows. The Concordat High Council chamber on Yildan Prime erupted into chaos as the emergency session convened. High Chancellor Nix Kelrathi's 4 eyes widened as holographic displays showed the impossible. Human vessels appearing simultaneously in 23 star systems, all utilizing technology that, according to every assessment, should have been centuries beyond their grasp. "How is this possible?" she demanded, slamming a clawed appendage onto the crystal table. "They were contained, monitored." Senior observer Tarek Morvai, the Concordate's chief anthropologist for primitive species development, looked physically ill. "We may have miscalculated their adaptive capacity, Chancellor." Miscalculated. The word dripped with venom. They've deployed technology that our own scientists deemed theoretical. Across the table, General Helix Varax of the Concordate, Defense Force studied the human deployment patterns with grudging admiration. They've struck precisely at unaligned systems, those outside our direct protection but within our sphere of influence, strategic, deliberate, in the Proxima Centauri system. The first official diplomatic contact was underway. Ambassador Indigo Mercer of Earth stood before the hastily assembled representatives of the Concordate. Her stance relaxed, but her eyes sharp as polished obsidian. "The United Earth Empire extends greetings to the Everlast Concordate," she began, using their formal title with a hint of irony. "We look forward to establishing equitable relations between our civilizations." The Concordate emissary, a towering phalanx named Drav Zentaris, struggled to maintain diplomatic composure. "This expansion violates dozens of containment protocols established for developing species." Ambassador Mercer smiled. "Protocols we never agreed to, established by an authority we never recognized. I believe we've demonstrated that your assessment of developing species requires immediate revision." Back on Yildan Prime, the Security Council debated options. "We must respond with immediate military action," insisted Defense Minister Cora Vex. "Show overwhelming force now, or every other. Protectorate species will follow humanity's example. Against an enemy whose capabilities we clearly don't understand," countered Strategic Director Taryn Lysander. "We don't even know how they developed quantum fold technology without detection." On the frontier world of New Terra, formerly designated as Kepler 186f by Earth astronomers, Governor Phoenix Asher addressed the first wave of colonists. The terraforming accelerators, another technology humanity had developed in secret, were already transforming the atmosphere. "Today marks not just a new chapter for humanity," she proclaimed, "but a fundamental shift in the galactic order. The stars are not a privilege to be granted by ancient powers. They are the inheritance of any species with the will to claim them." As human expansion vessels appeared in the Sirius system, they encountered unexpected allies. The Valen, a species, long chafing under Concordate protection, welcomed the human ships with open communications. "We have watched your ascension with great interest," the Valen overseer, Lyra Tholian, transmitted. "Perhaps together we can negotiate a new paradigm with the Concordate." In the war room aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Reeves monitored the unfolding situation across 24 star systems. "Phase 1 complete," reported Lieutenant Frost. "Concordate forces are mobilizing, but they're confused, scattered. They can't decide if this is a military action or just an unauthorized expansion." "It's both and neither," Admiral Reeves replied. "Proceed with Phase 2. Let's see how they respond to our technological revelations." As the human ships activated their advanced defensive systems, technology that incorporated principles from 7 different Concordate species, improved and integrated in ways never attempted, the message became clear. Humanity hadn't just escaped their cage. They had studied their zookeepers, learned their weaknesses, and prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The question now facing the Concordate was stark. Had they created their own worst enemy by attempting to contain a species whose greatest strength was overcoming limitations? The Proxima Centauri system blazed with weapons fire as the first major confrontation between human and Concordate forces unfolded. What had begun as a routine containment action by the Concordate rapidly devolved into a humiliating rout. Captain Eridani Voss, daughter of President Voss and commander of the advanced destroyer HSS Defiance, executed a series of maneuvers that Concordate tactical systems classified as physically impossible. Her ship's gravitational distortion array, technology adapted from theoretical models glimpsed in concordant scientific exchanges, allowed the human vessel to bend space-time in minute but devastating ways. "Target their command vessel," she ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Disable only. We need to demonstrate capability, not brutality." The Defiance's primary weapon, a focused quantum displacement beam, lanced through space, bypassing the Concordant flagship's shields, entirely by shifting its attack through a dimensional fold. Systems across the alien vessel went dark instantaneously. On Concordant worlds, the news spread despite official censorship attempts. Humanity, the curious primitives, had not only expanded beyond their containment zone, but were demonstrating military technology that challenged Concordant supremacy. In the Emergency Command Center beneath Mount Olympus on Mars, the United Earth Strategic Command monitored the unfolding conflicts. President Voss studied the tactical displays with General Corvus Atlas, the architect of humanity's military doctrine. "We've achieved tactical surprise," Atlas observed, "but that advantage won't last. The Concordant still commands resources from thousands of worlds. Then we proceed with the Proxima Ultimatum," President Voss decided. Across human-controlled space, a specialized quantum entanglement network activated, broadcasting a message simultaneously to every Concordant world and outpost, a technological feat that bypassed all known communication jamming. Ambassador Mercer's face appeared on screens across Concordat territory. "To the leaders and citizens of the Everlast Concordat, humanity extends an offer of peace through strength. We have demonstrated our technological capabilities and our resolve. We now offer terms for coexistence." The terms were simple yet revolutionary. Recognition of humanity's sovereign right to expand to unclaimed systems, access to the galactic commerce networks, and, most controversially, the right of any protectorate species under Concordat guidance to petition for association with the newly declared human commonwealth. On New Terra, the first phase of terraforming had created breathable atmospheric pockets, allowing colonists to walk under alien skies without environmental suits. Amidst this triumph, Governor Asher received urgent communication. "Concordat battle group detected on approach vector," reported Security Chief Orion Wren. "Estimated arrival, 6 hours." Asher nodded calmly. "Activate the planetary defense grid and notify our Valen friends. It's time to show the Concordat what genuine alliance looks like." As the Concordat forces approached, they encountered not just human defenses, but Valen vessels fighting alongside them, a shocking development that sent ripples of alarm through Concordat High Command. On Yildun, Prime High Chancellor Kelrathi faced growing dissent within the Council. First the humans break containment, and now they're inciting rebellion among Protectorate species? This cannot stand. Strategic Director Lysander's expression was grave. "Chancellor, preliminary reports indicate the humans have shared their quantum fold technology with the Valen. If this alliance pattern continues," the implication hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all. Humanity wasn't just challenging Concordat authority, they were offering an alternative to it. In the shadow of this growing crisis, an unexpected communication reached the human high command, an encrypted message from a faction identifying themselves only as the Dissent, claiming to represent progressive elements within Concordat society. "Your emergence has accelerated inevitable change," the message read. "The Concordat's age of unquestioned dominance was already waning. Meet us at the coordinates provided. There is much you do not understand about the true power dynamics of our galaxy." As human forces consolidated their positions across 23 star systems, the stage was set for either the greatest diplomatic revolution the galaxy had ever seen, or the beginning of a war that would redefine stellar civilization. Either way, humanity would never return to its cage. The neutral meeting point chosen by the descent was the abandoned precursor outpost orbiting a neutron star in the Vela sector, a place deliberately avoided by concordant vessels due to intense radiation and gravitational distortions. Perfect for a clandestine gathering. Admiral Reeves had insisted on attending personally, despite President Voss's concerns. Her shuttle, equipped with experimental shielding, docked with the ancient structure, a massive ring of unknown metal that had survived eons of punishment from the nearby stellar remnant. Inside, she found not the expected concordant dissidents, but representatives from 7 different species, all classified as protectorates under concordant rule. "Welcome, Admiral," greeted a tall, crystalline being that introduced itself as Architect Lumina of the Tholari Collective. "We are what your contact called the Descent, though we prefer to be known as the Free Systems Alliance. You're all Concordat protectorates," Reeves observed, studying each alien representative carefully. "Officially," replied Sentinel Khazar, a reptilian Drakari whose scales shifted color with emotion. "In practice, we have been building our own shadow network for 3 centuries, preparing for the right moment to challenge concordant dominance." The revelation stunned Reeves. "And you believe humanity's emergence is that moment?" "It is the catalyst we have awaited," confirmed Lumina. "The Concordat has ruled through technological superiority and the myth of benevolent guidance. You have shattered both illusions simultaneously." On New Terra, the Concordat battle group arrived to find not just a defended human colony, but a fully operational planetary shield system integrated with quantum disruption fields. Technology that even the Concordat had deemed too energy-intensive for planetary defense. Admiral Tyrus Vell of the Concordat fleet sent the standard demand for surrender, expecting the typical compliance from a fledgling colony faced with overwhelming force. Governor Asher's response was broadcast across all frequencies. "Admiral Vell, we invite you to witness the future of interspecies cooperation." At her signal, the planetary shield briefly opened, not in surrender, but to allow a massive Valen construction vessel to emerge from the planet's shadow, escorted by human destroyers. "Behold the first jointly developed human Valen quantum Nexus," Asher announced as the massive structure activated, creating a stable wormhole large enough for capital ships. "Your fleet doesn't frighten us, Admiral. We can evacuate our entire population or bring in reinforcements faster than you can target your weapons." Aboard the Concordat flagship, tactical officers stared in disbelief. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Vell. "Even our theoretical models couldn't stabilize a wormhole of that magnitude." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They'd solved problems that had stumped Concordat scientists for millennia. Meanwhile, deep within Concordat space, Operation Phantom Oracle launched without detection. 5 human stealth vessels, utilizing technology that bent light and sensor readings around their hulls, infiltrated the Concordat's central data repository on Axiom 3. Commander Lachlan led the infiltration team personally, moving through the facility's quantum security measures using countermeasures developed by Dr. Novak. Their mission wasn't destruction, it was information. Specifically, access to the Concordat's deepest secret, the existence of the Omega protocols. "We're in," whispered Lieutenant Frost as the final firewall yielded. "Downloading the archives now. What they discovered would change everything." The B? Concordat's 9,000-year dominance wasn't built solely on technological superiority. It was maintained through systematic suppression of any species that showed too much promise. The containment of humanity wasn't benevolent protection, it was deliberate restriction of a potential rival. More disturbing still were the contingency plans labeled stellar extinction measures for species deemed existentially threatening to Concordat continuity. They've done this before, Lachlan realized with horror. Eliminated entire civilizations that developed too quickly. Back at the precursor outpost, Admiral Reeves received the classified data through the quantum entanglement network. Her face darkened as she shared the findings with the Free Systems Alliance representatives. "The Concordat isn't just containing progress," Sentinel Khazar hissed, scales flashing crimson with anger. "They're actively preventing the emergence of any civilization that might challenge them." "Then our next move is clear," Admiral Reeves decided. "We don't just fight for human expansion, we fight for the right of all species to determine their own destiny." The Quantum Gambit, humanity's most audacious move yet, was about to begin. The Concordat High Council chamber fell silent as the classified human transmission played across the holographic displays. Commander Laughlin's face, broadcast simultaneously, to every Concordat world through compromised communication arrays, spoke with measured determination. "People of the Everlast Concordat, we address you directly because your leadership has hidden the truth. We have accessed your historical archives and discovered the Omega Protocols, the systematic extinction of 17 advanced civilizations over your 9,000-year rule." Chancellor Kelrathi's expression contorted with rage. "Terminate this. Transmission immediately." But the Concordat's vaunted communication security had been thoroughly compromised. The human message continued unabated, now displaying devastating evidence. Archaeological records, extinction orders bearing Concordat seals, and star systems deliberately sterilized to eliminate competitor species. "These weren't acts of protection or guidance," Commander Laughlin continued. "They were calculated genocide to maintain Concordat dominance." The most damning revelation came last. Evidence that humanity had been targeted for containment, specifically because predictive models showed their adaptive capacity would eventually surpass Concordat capabilities. Across Concordat space, the carefully maintained myth of benevolent guardianship began to unravel. On dozens of worlds, Protectorate species who had long suspected the truth found their suspicions confirmed in the most public manner possible. On the Valen homeworld of Lysithea, mass demonstrations erupted outside Concordat administrative centers. The normally reserved Valen, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with emotions rarely displayed in public, demanded answers. In the Strategic Command Center on Mars, President Voss and General Atlas monitored the spreading unrest through their intelligence network. "The revelation has achieved its purpose," Atlas noted. "Concordat forces are being recalled from frontline positions to deal with internal security." "And the Free Systems Alliance?" asked Voss. "Moving as planned. 7 Protectorate worlds have already declared independence and requested Commonwealth protection." The masterstroke of humanity's strategy wasn't military, it was informational. By exposing the truth behind Concordat rule, they had initiated the Empire's unraveling from within. On Yildan Prime, Chancellor Kelrathi faced an unprecedented crisis. "We must crush this human rebellion immediately," she insisted to her increasingly divided council. "Activate the Terminus Array." Even hardened council members reacted with shock. The Terminus Array, a network of stellar manipulation devices, capable of inducing supernovas, had never been officially acknowledged, much less deployed. "Chancellor," Strategic Director Lysander objected, "using the array would confirm everything the humans have claimed about us." "I will not preside over the collapse of 9,000 years of order," Kelrathi replied coldly. "Prepare the array, target Sol system." The order sent shockwaves through Concordat Command. Among them was Fleet Admiral Gira Valeris, who had long harbored private concerns about Concordat methods. Her decision was made in an instant. She transmitted the activation codes for the Terminus Array directly to human intelligence through channels established by the Descent. Commander Laughlin received the warning aboard the stealth vessel returning from Axiom III. "Quantum transmission to all Commonwealth forces," she ordered urgently. "Code Omega. This is not a drill." Throughout human-controlled space, a contingency plan long prepared for this exact scenario activated. On Earth, massive evacuation portals. Powered up, their quantum signatures deliberately visible to Concordat sensors. a show of preparedness that carried an implicit message. We knew what you were capable of all along, but humanity's true response came from Dr. Novak's team on Europa. As the Terminus Array began its devastating power buildup, targeting the Sun, a specialized countermeasure activated, the Stellar Harmonic Shield, technology developed from fragments of ancient precursor science discovered beneath Europa's ice. When the Terminus beam struck, rather than initiating solar collapse, the energy was absorbed, redistributed, and harmlessly dissipated. The Concordate's ultimate weapon, the source of their final leverage over rebellious species, had failed. In that moment, the balance of power shifted irreversibly. Across Concordate space, Protectorate worlds watching the attempted destruction of humanity and its unexpected survival made their choice. One by one, then in waves, they declared independence from a regime whose moral authority had been utterly destroyed. The Concordate, an empire maintained through technological superiority and the threat of extinction, faced the beginning of its end. And humanity stood at the threshold of a new galactic order, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The observation deck of the newly commissioned Commonwealth Diplomatic Station Harmony offered a spectacular view of the Orion Nebula, symbolic, neutral ground for the most significant peace conference in galactic history. 5 years had passed since the failed Terminus Array attack, years filled with conflict, revelation, and finally, exhaustion on all sides. Admiral Reeves, now showing visible signs of age accelerated by radiation exposure during the Battle of Procyon, stood beside Ambassador Mercer as the Concordate delegation arrived. No longer led by the disgraced Chancellor Kelrathi, who had been removed in an internal coup following the failed extinction attempt, the Concordate representatives were headed by Interim Chancellor Taryn Lysander. A historic day, Mercer observed. Quietly. Historic indeed, Reeves replied, her voice carrying the weight of all they had endured, though not the victory many expected. The war that followed the Terminus incident had not been the total collapse of Concordate authority that many had predicted. Despite losing nearly 40% of their territory to declarations of independence, the Concordate's military machine remained formidable. What had begun as rebellion evolved into a grinding conflict across hundreds of worlds. The turning point came not through military victory, but through a crisis that threatened all spacefaring species. The destabilization of the galactic core, an unexpected consequence of Terminus technology, created gravitational anomalies that endangered dozens of star systems, regardless of political alignment. Out of that shared crisis emerged the framework for galactic cooperation, the document that would be signed today. As the formal proceedings began, President Ilara Voss addressed the assembled representatives of 26 formerly subjugated species alongside Concordate delegates. We gather not to celebrate triumph over an enemy, but to acknowledge a fundamental truth. The stars belong to no single species or alliance. The future of our galaxy must be built on cooperation, not domination. Chancellor Lysander, representing a humbled but still powerful Concordate, responded, "For 9 millennia, we believed ourselves the necessary guardians of galactic order. We were wrong. The ascension of humanity has taught us that diversity of approach, not uniformity of control, creates true stability. On New Terra, now a thriving world of 20 million human colonists and a growing community of interspecies scholars, Governor Asher watched the transmission alongside Overseer Tholian of the Valen. The world had become a symbol of what cooperation could achieve, its atmosphere fully terraformed through combined human ingenuity and Valan biological expertise. "Did you believe it would end this way?" Tholian asked, his bioluminescence pulsing with contemplative patterns. "Not an ending," Asher corrected. "A beginning." In the classified research facility beneath Europa, now an open scientific exchange, Center, Dr. Novak supervised the final integration of the precursor codex. the culmination of cooperative research between 12 species, each contributing unique perspectives to decipher the ancient knowledge. The precursors didn't disappear, he explained to a gathering of interspecies researchers. They transcended, leaving behind the tools for others to follow, tools the Concordat found but kept hidden, fearing what unified species might achieve. Commander Lachlan, her flagship now patrolling the Galactic Core Stabilization Zone alongside former Concordat vessels, reflected on the journey as she watched distant engineering teams, human, Valen, Tholari, and even Concordat, working together to contain the gravitational distortions. Her communication officer interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, priority message from Admiral Reeves. The framework has been ratified." Across known space, the news spread through the quantum entanglement network, the very technology that had helped humanity break free now serving as the nervous system of an emergent interstellar community. The terms were revolutionary: a galactic council with proportional representation, open exchange of scientific knowledge, mutual defense against external threats, and most significantly, the dissolution of the protectorate system in favor of sovereign association. The Concordat would continue to exist, but as one power among many rather than the unquestioned authority it had been for millennia. As the formal ceremony concluded, Admiral Reeves found herself standing beside Strategic Director Lysander, once an adversary, now a cautious partner in peace. "You know," Lysander observed quietly, "our earliest assessments of humanity identified your species' greatest strength as adaptation. What we failed to understand was that true adaptation isn't merely surviving adversity, it's transforming it into opportunity." Reeves studied the alien diplomat. "And the Concordat's greatest mistake?" "Believing that order imposed from above could ever match the stability of cooperation freely given," Lysander replied. As delegates dispersed to begin implementing the framework, Ambassador Mercer found herself alone on the observation deck, watching the swirling nebula, cosmic gases forming new stars through natural processes unfathomably older than any civilization. The quantum communicator at her wrist activated, displaying President Voss's weathered face. "It's done, Indigo. After everything, the containment, the war, the losses, we've achieved something no one thought possible." Mercer smiled, thinking of the long journey from humanity's isolation to this moment. Not the empire we imagined rising from Earth, perhaps. Something greater. "Something unexpected," Voss agreed. Beyond the viewport, the first ships bearing the new Commonwealth insignia, a spiral galaxy with an open center, symbolizing unity without centralized control, departed for distant systems. Not to conquer or control, but to explore and connect. Humanity had indeed built an empire, not of worlds conquered, but of ideals shared. Not through dominance, but through the one strength their would-be controllers never truly understood: the human capacity to unite through diversity rather than despite it. And across the galaxy, species that had lived under the shadow of Concordat rule for millennia looked to the stars with something long forgotten: hope.